Robert is joining us. He's interested in joining the park sport, so he's come tonight to observe. He does understand that we won't have a lot of time for discussion, but maybe he could introduce himself in just a couple minutes. Robert, is that okay, Kathleen?
Sure.
Do that to start?
Okay. Welcome.
Yeah.
So tell us where you're, what neighborhood you're in and what, why you're interested in being on the park board. Real quick.
Yes, I live in Sandy Place over on the new apartment complex, 138 units over there on Sandy Heights and Bluff. I moved in there 3 months ago. I lived in Sandy for 5 years back in 2000 and 2005. I left because I could not find a living situation that was proper in Sandy, so I got pushed out and I was living in Gresham. Unfortunately, I was not very happy there, and I wanted back in Sandy so bad, and I looked for years. I put it on a waiting list. I couldn't afford a home. So we found a place that we're very happy with, and I'm very excited. I'm happy to say I'm staying in Sandy permanently now for the rest of my life, and I'm 40, so I'm gonna live here forever. And maybe not Sandy Place necessarily, but I like Sandy. I love Sandy. I love everything that's happening here with Sandy. I can tell you that I see that growth is something we can't stop, but there are a lot of scars into our hearts with growth, and we can heal those scars and those pains of growth, but we can't stop growth. But I can tell you there's a lot of things happening in Sandy that I'm very enthusiastic about. I see the 50 park systems out in various places around here. They're exciting. This is something that doesn't happen anywhere in the Portland metro area or Gresham alone. Like to say, and I would say that we got things going here that's good. I can see good things happening in Sandy. I can see this. The impacts of growth are not going to scar us, our hearts, because I can see this is going to build up something good. We've got something good going here.
Good, thank you. Anybody have any questions? All right, well, let's get on the consent agenda and things coming. So the first item on the agenda are the Parks Board minutes for May 18th. And everybody kind of takes a minute to look through those meeting minutes.
Good to me.
And the only thing I would say on 5.2, I think there was a recommendation for getting the porta potties into Bornstedt Park a little earlier because it said mid-June. I know we all talked about that and the weather was warm even then, and people were asking about the splash pad. And
They're
so,
in.
Yeah, right, they're in. But
Okay.
just as a kind of a, unless it's really bad weather and stuff, but, trying to get it when the weather's nice in by around the 1st of June or something, I think is what the discussion was about.
Okay, I got that.
Okay.
Looking for a motion?
Yep.
Move to approve the minutes as presented with the one adjustment.
Okay.
Second.
Second.
Okay, give me
Michael?
1 second
Okay,
here, I'm
that's
trying
fine.
to
Yep.
figure this out here. Okay, on Roberts. That's all I have to do, right? Bear with me this first time on
Yeah,
this
okay.
is
No problem.
Whatever you need.
If I have to go back and
Yeah.
enter it, I'll do it later. But I'll know that Dawn.
And we're recording, right? Is
Yes,
that all working?
yes.
Great.
And who
Okay.
seconded?
I did.
Mike, you did, Michael, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. All right, thank you. All those in favor of passing the minutes with the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Changes to the agenda that were suggested was discussion of herbicide applications in and around parks and sandy, open spaces and things like that. So,
It's on the agenda now.
Is it, where is it?
Yeah, depends on which version you got.
Oh,
Once again,
it's
that's
not
not
here.
my-
Where is it?
okay, yeah, the one I have in front of me, but,
Oh, well, the agenda I copied is
You got it on
It's
the
more,
website.
it's more
Yeah.
complete.
That's okay.
And if I could, what I'd like to ask is we're gonna put it, the larger discussion on the agenda for July.
Yeah.
But if you guys wanna give me some direction,
Mhm.
that information that you need, let me know, and I do have for staff updates, some answers to some preliminary
Okay.
questions.
So my understanding, Susan, was that we were over there and they were spraying herbicides and it was kind of aerial spraying on a windy-ish day and it was obviously carrying over to the community gardens. Is that the?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even see him. I was faced the other way, and then I'm like, oh, what's this? And I turned around and you know, and he's all masked up. He's like a complete ski guy, whatever, and spraying blackberries. And, you know, it wasn't a gale. It was a wind, some wind, morning wind. It was about 9:15 or something like that. And so I called over and said, what's happening? And, you know, what are you spraying and why?
How far away was
took
he?
Well, you know, my little bed is on the north side, right
Uh-huh.
next to that fence, so I was right there. So it's the distance between the fence on
Like
that
about
north side.
50 feet or something, huh?
No, I don't think it's 50 feet.
Is it
It's more
closer than
like
that?
20 feet.
Okay, yeah,
I mean, I don't know. I didn't go out and measure it, but, you know, then he stopped.
yeah.
Because I said, you know, what, he said, we're turning the blackberries, and I said, well, this is the blah, blah, blah. And he kind of sighed and walked off and went to his truck and got a sign and came back out, right, a sign, I don't know if anybody else went out there, but I took a picture of the sign.
I
It's
saw
just
that.
right by the compost
Reading
pile
it.
and the other stuff, and, you know, and then it says, you know, warning, blah, blah, from 9:30 to 11:30 or something, these things will be sprayed. Well, it's already after 9:30, so I didn't have
I got a
anything
pizza
further.
for Sandy Parks. Sandy?
Don't tease us.
Oh, and here's order breadsticks.
Now we're gonna hold you to that, you're gonna feel good about it, you know?
Oh,
Thank you.
anyway, so, and then
What a nice guy.
Yeah.
And there wasn't anybody else out there, you know,
Okay.
at the time, but there are, you know, there's constantly people and babies and
Mhm.
coming and going and dogs and this and that, and so.
And he told you what, was it
I said,
around
what
the
were you
and-
spraying?
and
You know, I'm
crossbows?
always yelling out there.
Yeah.
Really?
I wasn't being,
No.
I don't know what you said, but I didn't think I was being real hostile. I think I was just kind of like, and he said, and he kind of calls back to me, crossbow. And I'm like, oh, anyway, so,
Yeah.
anyway. But, you know, but even when I got home, I had an icky taste in my mouth. And I don't really know that much about the particular stuff, but I've just always had an understanding that crossbow's kind of a strong and nasty thing that, you know, people use on ivy and
Blackberries,
It's
things
on-
that are hard to kill.
various
It's
things
for
like
woody
that. Yeah.
plants. It won't hurt grass, but it will
Well,
kill
hurt
crossbreed.
plants, yeah.
But it's not supposed to be used on cropland, so it shouldn't be used next to where people are growing things.
And then I put this other thing out later on that night. I just don't understand why somebody felt that that blackberries along that fence line should be taken out somehow or other. I mean, who's wanting that, why and stuff, so. Nobody replied at all, but I
I
don't
think they
know.
were trying to just, you know, keep the weeds, the blackberries out of the park, from spreading into the park.
Well,
Because the landowner adjacent is not, you know,
yeah.
is not doing anything about all the
It looked to me
blackberries.
like most of it was on the other side of the fence.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really coming into the park, and like I said, I've gone along there and snipped things when they try to grow out. It just pretty much stays where it is, and people pick those berries. You can tell people pick berries, and on the roadside they do as well. And then somebody else sprayed the other person's fence line, that bigger piece of property to the west part. They were all going, you know, little plants were looking all icky, and I don't think I sent you another picture, but there's flowers on the blackberries and stuff, you know, bugs and everything are buzzing around right now. Anyway, it was somebody said they didn't think you should be spraying in the morning because there's more likely to be a breeze. I don't know when you're supposed to spray, but, and that, you know, you're not supposed to be spraying stuff like that, right? When the flowers are there and the bees and everything else are gonna be buzzing around. So, I wasn't, you know. So anyway, I just thought I would tell everybody right away.
Do you want to
And,
kind of talk about what you
Yeah.
found out?
Yeah, so, what I found out was, you know, let me just pull up Michael's questions, because some of that covers. first of all, I think that the decision about the blackberries was just the concern that it was gonna start creeping into the park, that was one thing. They did discuss it and decided that a wind meter would be a good idea, so that they have an idea of the wind speed and whether or not it's a good time to spray. Our public works director thinks it would be, recommended that you all would come up with recommendation for council, and then it would go to council, and council would probably direct staff to research it further and come up with options and alternatives and what they're currently doing, so that council would have the information to then set policy going forward. Michael sent some questions. One of them was, does the city of Sandy have a pesticide policy? If so, who adopted it and when? Currently, there is no policy. Herbicides are used to control weeds and invasives on city property, open spaces, and parks. This applies to contractors working, also applies to contractors working for the city or on city property. When and where is determined by parks, buildings, and ground staff. Are there a set of procedures for which pesticides may be used and in which situation? Who makes these decisions? Only herbicides that do not require an applicator's license are available to the general public and can be applied with handheld, non-powered application equipment or used in accordance with the manufacturer's labeling. Does Sandy have an integrated pest management program? No, we do not. So, probably a larger conversation for our next meeting, but it gives you some time to think about what you would like to recommend to council.
I'll drive over there tomorrow or Saturday and, just kind of get a better look of exactly where the blackberries are at. I haven't been over that park in probably about a month, so, and I'm sure they've grown significantly, so just to kind of see, I'm a big advocate for knocking those things down, power tools and not.
Yeah, you know.
And I agree with you
Yeah.
100% that those should not be used around where food is being grown,
Yeah.
yeah, we'll come up with a good solution, how's that?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it's good to
that's-
kind of explore, as I said, in my email, that, you know, Metro has, you know, on all their restoration of their natural spaces, has really good program where they have set, you know, it is kind of more of an integrated, plan, and looks at what, you know, what should be used where, what kind of stuff get used in the water, because we have done, you know, spraying along Tickle Creek and other things, and it's, some people ask questions and stuff, but it's good to kind of have something in writing as to what could be used where, what are the, you know, the wind turbine thing, or whatever they are, you know, the proximity to community gardens, and just some little policies.
Yeah,
on
this
that.
one incident opens up a bigger,
Absolutely.
you know, a bigger discussion,
Yeah.
because it's not just this one spot that's sensitive. We're talking about parks.
Yeah.
Parks are used by children and other animals, and so we need to be sensitive to that.
Yeah. And we also.
Plus the
you
bees
know,
and everything else.
Yeah, I mean, and, you know, to put it in perspective, like Sandy River Park was, you know, about 70% blackberries 15 feet high when we got it. And so, you know, the only way to deal with that was to, you know, mow them down, spray them, mow them, you know,
Yeah.
I mean, just repeated, and planting. That was the key thing that I think is really important, is that when we have these sensitive areas, trying to kind of do the long-term plantings to, you know, reduce the need in the future.
Yeah, 'cause I thought one of the solutions for blackberries was to plant shade
Yeah.
crops over the top of them, right?
Right, yeah, if you
No,
plant,
not so much?
It takes a long.
Yeah.
It takes a
you're talking-
while. I mean,
you're talking
trees
decades
take a while
to
to
plant
grow.
something
Yeah,
and shade it out.
Fair,
So
that's fair.
You gotta cut it.
You mean it's not a 5-minute solution?
It is not. And I looked up today, as a matter of fact, our IPM that we used in Ashland,
Uh-huh.
and it's a thorny issue. And it's harder than you would think, you know, everybody has a different opinion about different things. Granted, Ashland was a much different community than Sandy is, but, we had a rather extensive one, and there's a lot of them out there. It's not hard to find examples of it. I'd be more than happy to forward the one that I've used in the past.
Yeah. that would be
It
good.
is not the solution for everything.
Mhm.
In some ways, I think it goes too far.
Mhm.
In other ways, probably not far enough.
Mhm.
Sure.
So, but I'd be more than happy to forward that to staff
Yeah,
and
that'd be helpful.
answer any questions
Yeah.
they may have regarding
Yeah.
that.
I'll get the, Kate's in Ireland this week, my friend that works for Metro and does, you know, uses this all the time, and I'll get something from her when she gets back next week, and, forward that to you guys too, to look at. There might be some other,
I'll
do
look.
you know of any, Mike?
No, but I'll look
With
around.
Clackamas Watershed Council?
Yeah, no, I will talk to
And
the
soil
soil and water,
conservation,
to
yeah,
the soil and
those
water
guys.
conservation people.
No,
See
I-
if they have anything. that
Yeah,
they
and
can
I'm
help
sure
us
they
with.
probably do. The difference though is they're not in the business of managing community gardens or
Right.
managing playgrounds or
Yeah.
sports fields or different things like that, and neither
Neither
is
is
Metro.
Metro.
So-
Well, I mean, they're parks, they do, you know.
Yeah, kind
Yeah,
of, but
yeah,
not,
right, but open, she's dealing with open spaces,
Right.
yeah.
The other thing I mentioned to you several months ago that I really meant to bring up is that if you go and look at the community gardens, there's the fence and, you know, the gates, and there's about, I don't know, like, I'm thinking my sense of measurements is really way off, maybe it's not, no, but anyway, you know, there's a dead zone that's obviously from spraying all the way around the community garden. I was asking Sarah, like, what's that all about anyway?
What
I mean,
what was
who did
sprayed,
that?
yeah.
Probably
And
the
when?
mowers.
And why?
The park
Yeah.
staff
And I wanna know
mows
more
around.
about it, and
Oh, yeah.
I've just
Around the
never
fence.
had time to follow up on it, but
Yeah.
I could just imagine, it's probably something worse, actually,
Well, I mean,
and
yeah.
closer in,
Yeah.
you know, cause it's
Yeah.
right there,
Yeah.
and then,
And that's probably
anyway.
just basic park maintenance of,
I
you know,
know,
'cause they
just,
can't mow
but,
right up against the
you
fence,
know,
but again, that's
I
something
mean,
that
no
we should
offense,
address,
but,
yeah.
I mean, over the years of my work, I have dealt with like public works guys and stuff, you know, and they're just like, they like to do the way they always did it and stuff, and so I don't think it's an easy task to try to get them to change their
No,
ways.
it is not an
And it's
easy
gonna
task.
take, and it's gonna take the force of something, the council or something, to say, you know, even to set some limits, you know, like, okay, you know, go and have your fun over somewhere else, like in
Yeah.
your yard, but not here,
Yeah.
or somewhere, anyway. so.
Well, that's totally reasonable.
And so
Yeah.
somebody can maybe find out what they've been doing right
Okay.
there on the fence line, because, I know, I
Well,
guess I should
it's
get a
probably
bed
even
that's in
bigger, you know,
the
it's-
center
again,
of
it's like you said, it's a bigger,
the
you know,
park,
when-
because.
on the parks, you know, like around the playgrounds,
Oh, yeah.
and top
I
lots
was
and things
gonna
like that,
try.
do they, you know, spray the fence lines,
It's such an obvious
you know,
dead zone, you
for
know.
maintenance, or, you know, or do they use the weed whacker, whipper thing? So, yeah, just, you know, kind of what, how much
Thanks,
stuff are
Sid.
they
I
spraying
sent
in our
you some
parks now,
pictures
I
way
guess is
back
the
when.
question, right?
I
You
don't know how
when,
far that
when
is.
and where do they use the herbicides now? Just kind of, as it relates to parks and trails and open space.
I mean, it was really close to the compost pile.
I will follow
Which, by the
up.
way, you know, you probably know what it's called, I can't ever remember the name of it. There's a specific kind of a little grass thing that's a holy terror. Some
Thistle.
people, it's not a thistle,
not a
it's sort of a
thistle.
grass thing. And it came in with the load of soil that's like on there.
The
and
new
it-
soil?
Yes, I think so. It's not on the top of it, but it's on the slopes
Oh.
of it. And this guy from, what do you call that nursery? I did a great big one. But, and he was talking about it one year, a couple of years ago, and so I, you know, anyway. And there's one particular bed that's like got a bunch of it, and you have to really, I don't know whether it came in the truck or what. but
Is there a bunch of thistle out there also?
I haven't been thinking
No.
about this so much,
I
no.
haven't noticed.
Have you seen this funny little thing? I have pictures of it
I will
somewhere.
have to go out and look at
I
it.
can't find them, but anyway,
I did
they're,
get some of the compost out and put in our garden spot.
Yeah?
But I didn't notice any.
oh, you have a plot there?
Yeah.
Oh. There's only about
One of
3
the-
left that
One
aren't.
of the gardeners has cleaned out a lot of that unused beds, there's 5 that haven't been sold yet,
Yeah.
and he went in and cleaned out those, most of them.
Oh, that's nice, that helps.
Yeah, we've
Yeah,
been
you have
cleaning
to
out.
have people
There's a couple by
volunteer.
ours.
Oh, yeah. Well, anyway.
There's 5 open if anybody wants.
Is it 51 and 61? No. Anyway, I can't find
I think
it.
we're at 55.
Oh, okay.
All right, so everybody's gonna kind of look for different IPM, integrated pest management plans, and and you're gonna get some input from the existing
Oh,
practices.
there's what some of those look like. Can you see if you expand it a little? It's a funny
Okay.
little, it's got 2 little, and then
I bet if they size too,
it's
though.
not
What do you say,
spurge
that
or
little-
splurge or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, do we wanna look at the bylaws?
Sure.
Okay, full disclosure, no, if you did buy them in house, I've been a little bit busy with episode of Yard
Like up on
Managers.
your house.
Is that your house?
Very nice.
It looks fantastic. Yeah, it looks fantastic.
I just got 14 yards
I'll
of
come out my
gravel,
dog kick it.
gravel delivered today.
Oh, did you really?
It's like
Yeah, it looks
digging
great.
paths up and metal edging and all that, so, I did not do my homework. Apologize.
So if we're looking at the bylaws, I compared them to the draft that we had before, which I think, Kathleen, you drew up.
I thought Valerie had a hand in those and then there was.
So,
combination.
two differences I see is that the old Article 6 committees is gone. We don't have committees in the bylaws, which isn't a terrible thing. I don't know that we need committees in the bylaws. And the last article, amendments, the original said that we would vote on amendments, and the new one says that the city council will adopt amendments.
I would think normally, isn't it, that we would recommend amendments and then they would approve them?
Yeah, I
Is
would
that
think they would have to, as the legal board,
Yeah.
have to be the ones to adopt
approve them?
yeah.
But I mean, we would.
Well, I mean, we can always recommend them that they can do something without our recommendation if they chose to. So, I don't know if it needs to be, I guess I'm okay with those changes. I don't know how other people feel.
I don't think I have.
Thanks for making the comparisons.
Yeah, I didn't, I don't think I have a copy of the other ones.
The old one, the draft.
No,
I think
I don't
that's
keep
what we
great
did.
files. I had to
I
do some
should all-
searching
I'm sure I
to
can find
find
it here.
things.
Okay.
Would you like a few days to look at it and get me recommendations you'd like to go to council? Because it will go to council next for approval. And you could forward me your recommendations and then.
I was fine with these. I
You're
thought they were
fine,
nice,
okay.
succinct, told it. I agree with Michael, it'd be nice to give us an opportunity to make recommendations or review prior to council actions. But other than that, I think that it's a pretty nice succinct document. The second half of it, the roles and responsibilities, I felt the same way about. I think that on those, it really called out, and reinforced that we're advisory to the council through the staff representative. We're not here to give you staff direction. We're here to provide council recommendations. And I think that's important. I think a lot of times these groups have a way of forgetting what their real charge is.
Okay.
Oh.
We're okay with having chair, vice chair, and secretary as our officers?
I think the question there that came up when Valerie was here was she had, I think, volunteered to be secretary, and then there was the question of, is she taking the notes as the secretary or?
Yeah, I was gonna ask that question
Yeah.
too. Is it,
Well, most groups have a secretary, whether they're small or large, and if it's large enough to have staff usually takes the notes, even if there is a secretary, okay? Just like in a larger organization, there may be a treasurer, but the treasurer signs a couple of things, and staff takes care of the money. And so it depends on how it's set up. It could be either way. I kind of like having, I hate taking notes, kind of like having staff take notes, but.
I was kind of interpreting the same as you. And I've done, or worked with commissions where there's been the same slate of officers, the chair, the vice chair, the secretary, and the secretary would provide information or work with staff, but staff is the one that took the notes.
What
to-
role would you see the secretary doing?
You know, in the past, with the ones I've been associated with, the staff would type up the draft of the minutes, they'd send them to the secretary for their tentative approval. And then basically it's a sounding board. And then it would go back to staff and they would disseminate them through the.
Maybe they usually send them to me, if that's in the past as the chair, but that can be the secretary's job.
If these were in effect, we'd be having an election tonight, because this is the last meeting of the fiscal year.
It's not a big problem.
So if they're adopted, we'll have an election right away, I presume.
Well, I think what I like about these is that it does call out, and this is where I hope, I would like to kind of, really, we're gonna talk a little bit about the recruitment, but, it says under the Article 3, second to the last paragraph, to ensure representation of various interests of parks and trail users, the board shall ideally include at least one member with interest in each of the following areas: playgrounds, youth and adult sports fields, dog parks, trails, and natural areas.
I don't know that we have that, or we ever looked for that.
Well, we've been trying, I mean, I've been out talking to dog park people,
Okay.
and then, that's why we put up all those flyers. We did a special flyer for Tickle Creek Trail, which I finally
Right.
got out, if you noticed.
I did. I
Took me
saw
a
it.
long,
I
it
seen
took me a
them.
while.
They look great.
So and then you guys put them up at the other parks.
Yes.
So there was the playground ones, there was the trail one, and there was the dog park one. And then you were gonna talk to the, sports people,
Yeah, I'm gonna see if I can find somebody, like maybe on one of the adult softball teams that might be interested in joining us.
Yeah.
And what I find, because I talk to the dog park a lot too, is that people think it's how much of a commitment is it? So I think we need to really communicate that, it's a meeting once a month and it's a follow-up discussion.
And that little flyer that I did, it's not the little poster, but it was just a little flyer. It had a little bit more specifics. It just says, we meet once a month, and beyond that, you can do more things if you want, and it's a variety of things. You can go work on trails, or you can, work in the community garden, or you can, do paperwork or whatever, I think, there's lots of opportunities for people to be involved, but only to the, to their comfort level, so it can just be the monthly meetings, if that's the preference.
Where would Mining Park fall in those categories? I mean, that's a big, important park, but that kind of a park that's just kind of a community park is not
Well,
an
it's got
interest area.
playgrounds,
It's like,
it's got,
it does,
it's got
but
some trails and
I don't-
natural areas, it's got, it wants to have a dog park.
That's
I think those are
good.
probably meant to be guidelines
Yeah.
or suggestions, not necessarily
Well,
the
that,
Yes, since they
definitive
leave
list.
out the
I
community.
would suggest substituting the word should for the word shall. Shall legally means you will do it.
Oh,
Doesn't
right,
mean that
yeah,
to
right.
Trump, but it means that to everybody else.
No, that's a good point, yeah.
And so if
Change from
if
the
we
word
mean
shall,
ideally,
ideally.
this is
Yeah.
our
Should.
goal.
And when
but
you
we
say
don't
shall
have to.
ideally, that's almost like a
Yeah,
should, but,
right, so
Yeah,
I think
right.
should ideally makes
Yeah.
more sense.
And, I think, and the other maybe comment on that is also that, what we try to do is get, people that live in all the different, park neighborhoods. A
Yeah,
little bit of a diversity,
Yeah.
just so that we don't get everybody all from, Bornstedt Park or something, or, all from the south side and not, just have a geographic
Or
diversity.
wishful thinking, right? We just don't
Right,
even
I know,
have
it's
any
not like
board
we've got
members.
people-
but,
It's
so
real
far, we've
specific
taken
about
anybody
it.
who volunteered.
Yeah,
Completely, but yeah.
Did a fog mirror.
Yeah.
Well, can we, under meetings, it just, I don't know about as often as necessary. It seems very big, and that seemed to be what was happening last year, was the meetings kept getting put off and postponed, and we didn't seem to be meeting. And I feel like if we say monthly,
Yeah.
but not listen, so it's, but then, and then there's usually at least 1 month where we just
Yeah.
can't make it happen. But if you
Yeah.
just say as often as necessary, that's how.
Yeah, that's a good
It
point. I mean, we,
sounds- I
we've always
mean,
met monthly, but
that-
then if
and
we
that
didn't have
means we
any
could-
agenda items, then,
But it also
Or
sounds
if we
like,
said
we could
monthly
meet
and
20
then
times a
meet
year,
in
which
one
nobody's
additional
ever
meeting or
done.
something, 'cause
Or-
we never meet
Or
more.
wants
Yeah.
to do.
I would just say meet monthly as needed.
Okay.
And that implies that, again, remember, sometimes if we didn't have an agenda items,
Yeah.
then Nancy would say, do you guys still wanna meet? We don't, have, and so we'd say, no, let's, give it a rest.
Well,
So maybe meet monthly as needed. Any other changes?
Uh, hmm. Do you know if the other boards of the city have 7 members? Do you know that, Kathleen?
I don't
Oh,
know.
yeah, this one.
Seems like that arts
Yeah.
commission, whoever.
They seem
you know.
bigger.
Yeah, I can't speak to how many
Their
people all the
commission,
other boards
yeah.
have. Yeah.
And allowing one member from the UGB outside the city limits, is that pretty standard for Sandy?
Well, we had that before,
Okay.
and then we kind of didn't have anything for a while, but yeah. We don't, I think there's a concern about doing more than that, just because
Sure.
it's, you know,
Outside.
they're not taxpayers
Right.
and.
I'm fine with that, I was just
Okay,
asking.
any other changes, Susan?
Where it says applicants for the board will be interviewed and appointed by the Sandy City Council, don't we have a new procedure that, where the interview isn't done by the Sandy City Council?
It's done by Lori as the council liaison, myself and Kathleen currently
Yeah.
as the board, so that does need to be changed, because that is what's being asked for us to do, is do the interview, and then we go to council for
Is that reflected in here though?
approval.
That's
No,
what
it's
she's
not.
saying,
Yeah,
that's,
okay.
that's how it needs to be,
Okay.
the
I
verbiage
do
needs to be
need, Michael,
changed.
it's absolutely
Right.
right.
Yeah,
They
right now
don't
it
have
says council.
I'll change that before it
Okay,
goes to.
under the career.
So-
Where is it at? Which?
After, it's at the bottom of Article, bottom of the first paragraph of Article 3.
Okay. Okay, all right, so you'll change that.
You need some language after interviewed,
Okay.
Yeah.
be interviewed by, and
By the,
Add detail, basically.
Yeah.
Okay. Have to get the original.
yeah, you guys send it out, I'll find it.
just to keep it general, you could say be interviewed by the council or their
Appointee.
appointees or delegates, and that leaves it open for it to be either by the council or by this committee, or by a different committee if the council decides to do it differently. You don't have to change the bylaws.
Maybe by council or their delegates, is that what you're saying?
Designate.
Designate? Okay. I will.
And appointed by the council, which obviously.
You guys will have to give me a lot of feedback.
Well, it's nice you can watch the video and, you
Yeah.
know, check stuff.
If you can hear, that's why it's important that everybody speak up.
Oh my
and like-
goodness, yeah. I was sitting in on the planning, on the work session last night via telephone, and it was so hard to hear anybody that wasn't right there.
Yeah,
Oh.
Oh, so that's what's recording us.
and they don't have longer.
Yeah, so anybody that was sitting right there last night, I could totally hear it, perfect. And then, like, it, all of a sudden, it was like, who's that talking? And it was funny because there were a few times when Mike was talking last night, that there was like a delay with the cell phone, so it made him sound like he was like a computer. It was like, wow, it's bizarre. Now I know what people are
Susan,
talking
will you
about.
turn that other mic
Yeah.
on?
I was doing the budget
Give us
meeting.
one
Yeah,
more.
well,
It was delayed
I
by
actually
like
thought,
6
I
seconds.
thought of you last night when I was doing that, I was like, oh, I can't believe it's not through the budget meeting like this. Anyway,
Okay, so then now, so we've made the changes, we're finished with the bylaws, unless anybody has anything else. Move on to the draft rules and responsibilities.
It seems like that might make it a little harder to find people to be on the board. Become familiar with federal, state, and county grant programs and other funding sources and.
Well, you know, that's, some of that's though, you know, not everybody has to do that, but when you bring it to the
Yeah.
table, that, you know, it's more like, you know, you have ideas for a project that, you know, then we can get a grant.
Right, but it says the board should. The board should, it doesn't say, well, anyway, I don't know, it just makes it sound like everybody on the board is supposed to become
Knowledgeable.
very knowledgeable.
Well,
Do you think
familiar.
that's reasonable?
I don't know
guess
about-
No,
knowledgeable. Oh, okay.
Yes and no. I don't think anybody's looking for us to be experts on,
Yeah,
you know,
just,
the grants or anything like
right.
that. But I think that it's fair to say that we should at least be awake and paying attention when it's being explained to us.
right, okay, but, yeah.
So Sandy has a biennial budget?
Mhm.
Oh, that's nice. Yes.
I remember you saying you guys had annual.
Oh, yeah, I hated it.
Feels like you're always
That's
going
all
through
you
budget
do.
cycle, right?
That's all you do.
Yep.
Huh. One of the things I remember that Valerie, or no, maybe you and Valerie both pointed out was that, and I don't know how you experienced it, Dawn, because you already came along with experience, but, and in the past, when I first joined, I remember being given a whole binder
Yeah.
with the whole thing and some, other stuff, and I don't know that we've been doing that more recently.
No, I wasn't given
It
anything when
was,
I
yeah,
came
given
on.
I think
nothing.
that's- yeah.
And that's something that's, gonna help,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
right.
I don't know if that needs to be in here, but we ought to have an orientation.
Yeah, that's an
Yeah.
expectation, I think, of the staff.
Of the staff.
Right,
needs to-
but shouldn't that
Um,
be said somewhere? I mean, like, it would help with all these things, some of them.
Yeah, that
anyway.
part did seem a little different than what I was used to.
Uh-huh.
That you were given
Yeah.
nothing,
What-
right? You just.
Yeah,
What
it's not
Nancy had done in the
responsible.
Yeah.
past was, we did have, kind of, similar to what we've just got here was, the bylaws, and I think there was some other piece of paper in there, and then there was the park master plan and a map.
I was gonna say, that would be really helpful, I
Yeah.
think, to have it, like, even if it's something like
Yeah,
this,
Yeah,
you know?
like this.
Yeah.
And then she
Well, it's a nice
also.
little pamphlet.
Mhm.
She also did,
Yeah.
well, this came off of, to some extent, she would do this, this list of all the, when we do the tour every year, she had like just a one-page thing, list of all the,
Right.
It's this many acres and, blah, 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 and how it came about, it's just like a one-page piece of paper that had, I still have it, maybe send it to you, yeah. And, just, it's just a good inventory of the parks, and then when we did have a map, I think she stuck that in.
So would you like me to do that?
Yeah, to kind
Okay.
of just for new members to have a little packet, just make up, 5 or 10 of them, so we have them to give out to people.
Yeah, there's
Uh,
that.
Again, comparing our original with, there were 18
Well, that
points
was
on
just
the
like,
original.
that was like, everything possible.
Yeah,
And-
no,
And
I-
the intent was to kind of narrow it down, chop it off.
That's,
cut it up, put it on a chart.
I'm okay with this.
Yeah, this is simpler,
Yeah.
one page, and, if this says everything we need, I mean, if there's anything critical, and I don't have that 18 list,
Well, I do, the things
There's
that
some
aren't
things in
on here is give advice and provide recommendations, but that's
It's-
the
Yeah.
whole-
Yeah.
that's the whole
That's
job.
that's an assumed,
That's
that's
an
an
assumed
assumed
role,
role,
that's
right?
Well, it does say that in there too.
Yeah.
Right, okay. Evaluate services, assess budget needs and monitor finances, relationships, serve as liaisons.
I'm not sure that the monitoring finances is really our role.
No, I don't think,
Well,
I
I
don't think
think
it.
what's interesting is that, and, let me see, the way that's been done in the past is just, it was mostly for the capital investment projects. It's like, okay, that kind of stuff. So we're not, down in the weeds, micromanaging, how much did you spend on crossbow this year? We're, talking about the big items, what are the big projects that we wanna, get done in the next couple of years? And as opportunities come up, there's an opportunity to purchase Bornstedt Park, or do a thing with Nature Conservancy on the Sandy River Park, or, so those are the kind of budget recommendations that we would look at to put together the CIP list. And that's, I think, pretty critical to what we do. And of course, the master plan will have a big impact on, guiding all that. But even with your master plan, what happens is, grants come up, opportunities come up, somebody wants to donate land, or we have kind of, the master plan won't tell us, well, in year 6, we should be doing this. So, there's gonna be a need to kind of redo the CIP list every couple years to be in concert with the master plan, but also take advantage of new developments that are coming online, which, you know, we never know where and when those are gonna happen. So that's kind of, I guess, budget stuff that I'm assuming we're gonna be involved in.
Big picture.
Big picture.
Big picture. And then when it comes to, you know, I will say that when it comes to staffing, you know, the decision to pay for another staff person to do parks planning and things like that, you know, I went to the meeting and sat through the workshop and gave some input, you know, and, you know, I think that's, you know, how we manage the entire parks budget, like on the budget committee meeting, you know, I volunteered to be on the budget committee because I wanted to, you know, look out for parks and make sure that, you know, it wasn't being, you know, court or anything like
Overlooked.
that, overlooked or suggestions for cuts and things like that, so, you know, I think, but yeah, that's about the extent of, I guess, I see our role as far as the budget goes, it's just kind of the big picture budget and, but not, you know, I don't think we've ever gotten involved in the micromanagement of it, so. Despite comments to the contrary, I think.
Right.
We'll just, yeah, move on. Now, was there other things on that list?
There are a lot of other, but I don't think they're, coordinate services, recommend programs,
Coordinate services?
That's in
promote
the
and
original
publicize
draft.
services,
Yeah, I think some of that is just, you know, informing
in the
community,
weeds.
you
Yeah.
know.
encourage citizen
Yeah,
participation
that's
and
on here.
input.
Yeah, inform community.
Yeah, but that's in, oh, right, okay, but they
Yeah.
were both on here.
Yeah, there's a lot of,
Include,
yeah.
stay knowledgeable, engage with surrounding municipalities
Oh, yeah.
to learn new strategies for common problems.
Yeah, and a great example of that was Don, you know, well, two things, what, the boring gazebo, you know, using that as the example, but also, Don's comments about using the, existing contract stuff. That was a cool, were you here for that?
I missed that, was, I think, your
Okay.
last meeting,
Yeah.
that got brought up.
Can you kind of explain how that whole thing works? For
Oh,
Sarah?
state bid, yeah.
State bid, yeah, explain how that.
I don't recall the official title of it, but if you go to the state purchasing, Google Oregon State Purchasing, it's a very nice little explanation, but basically the state goes out and bids for a number of products and services.
Mhm.
And if you choose to participate as a municipality, there might be a modest fee associated with it, I can't remember.
Mhm.
But you have the ability to purchase directly off of that state bid, so you don't have to go out for bid for.
Oh, okay.
Say you need, I don't know, a shelter.
Right.
If there's one on the state bid, that the state
Right.
bid out, then you can just make a
You can
direct purchase
piggyback
off
kind
of
of
it.
on
Yeah,
that.
just say we want, you know,
You
two
want
of
to bid
those,
for it.
yeah.
Oh, that's
You know,
great, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, and it's for a lot of consumables
Uh-huh.
and different things too. So you see tires and you'll see
Yeah.
toilet paper and.
Somebody else did the
towels
legwork on it.
Yeah.
and stuff, but, you know, it's just a fast way of getting things.
Yeah.
And if you join the Oregon one, you're automatically part of the Washington one also. So they publish a booklet that basically,
And that's called state purchasing?
yeah,
State bid list.
State bid list?
Yeah.
You're aware of it?
Well, so we talked about the last meeting,
Uh-huh.
and a little update, Kelly has tried to reach out, to the contact that Dawn gave him for Ashland, and they have not been able to connect. Kelly's been trying to set up a meeting.
Tyler should be all over this, though.
Tyler's in the middle of an audit right now.
Oh,
Yeah,
right,
he's
okay,
busy.
never mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He
Well,
just
when
finished
gets
the
out.
budget and now he's in an
Yeah.
audit, so
Oh,
yeah,
right,
he's
yes.
got stuff going on,
Forgot.
yeah.
But yeah, once he's get out of the audit, he should be familiar with it, cause it's not just park stuff, it's, you know, like
Yeah,
you
it's
said.
statewide.
It's, you know,
It's
buying
citywide.
tires for the city rigs, and like you said, it's, a great way to not have to do all the, you know, requests for bids and scope of works and all that other stuff, you can just kinda go in there and
A
go,
lot
oh,
of time saved.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we bought equipment on there, Forest Service has a
It's
similar.
called
thing,
the
you know, it's a
Oregon
federal-
Cooperative Procurement Program.
Oh, wait, say that again?
Oregon Cooperative Procurement Program.
Uh-huh.
Very good.
And
Okay,
it's
that's good to know.
easily,
Yeah. But that's an
Perfect.
example, you know,
Okay.
where knowing what's going on in the other, communities is helpful,
Thank you.
especially. And then, you know, on a footnote to that, Nancy and I used to go just for the Forest Service, but Nancy would go for the city of Sandy to the regional quarterly trails meetings. And they're a lot of fun. It's organized by Metro, and, you know, there'd be people from Gresham, Troutdale, you know, Tualatin, you know, the Columbia Gorge stuff, you know, from the counties, cities, and state, and there's consultants there. It's a bunch of people come, and the meetings are quarterly, and, you know, 4 times a month and 4 times a year. And they're very helpful to kind of, because they talk about, first of all, the grants that are available statewide. So the state grants that come up for trails and recreation
Mhm.
trails grants,
Mhm.
and then also the neighborhood grants and the local government grants and things like that. The state people come to that meeting and kind of talk about the process. And then also, what's nice about it is you get to see some, they have people present projects that, you know, have gotten done or are being done. For example, the trail along Marine Drive, all the way to Corbett is getting done. I mean, that's huge.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just gorgeous.
Well, that's
And so-
exciting.
Yeah, it'll, you know, the big joke was, you know, it used to be like $1 million a mile, and Nancy and I would just look at each other and roll our eyes. Now it's like up to $2 or $3 million a mile in Portland for, you know, but of course, these are paved trails, they look more like a road to me. But my point is that it is nice to kind of find out what other people are doing, what the grants are that are available. So that's the example of kind of tying in with what are other local.
So do we need other language, or is it kind of included in developed relationships?
Yeah, I think that's community organizations, especially, you know, elected officials and government agencies, yeah, I think that's incorporated in there.
Okay.
That's just an example of what, you know,
Mm-hmm.
how.
Yeah, so we don't need it
Yeah.
separate.
And then we were kind of, you know, everybody loved the Tickle Creek Trail and couldn't believe that that got built for $189,000 with all those bridges and stuff. And the packed gravel, that really kind of set a little bit of a movement in place to really start doing more packed gravel trails in Portland, because you can always pave over those in the future
Mhm.
if you really want to.
It also gives true roots to
Exactly.
the ability to expand without ruining your
Yeah,
pavement.
and then, you know, if something goes, you know, the root buckles it or something, you just go out there with Boy Scouts
That's where it
with a
was
wheelbarrow.
running
Then, rather than having to kind of excavate and pull out pavement and all that. So it's just, yeah, it's fun to kind of see what other people are doing and then brag a little bit on your own town and what we're doing. So let's see, the bylaws and the roles and responsibilities. Any changes? I don't think we've made any. Oh, do you want to put anything in there about budget? Is
No,
there
I think-
anything in there at all?
Yeah.
Where does it say?
Under become knowledgeable of funding sources, the
Oh, okay.
last run-on sentence is understanding the various funding sources will assist the board in preparing feedback and recommendations on city
Okay.
staff drafts. The biennial budget
Okay.
assists with identifying appropriate grant
Okay.
opportunities.
Okay.
That's the end of one sentence.
Does that, does that capture the?
Yeah, I think it does.
What our big picture?
That works for me.
I think so.
Okay.
And then with this says that that we're supposed to orient the new board members.
It says helps recruit and orient new board members.
I think that's, you know.
You guys are the experts.
I think help is the operative word.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right,
All right.
yeah.
Helps means somebody else is also doing it.
Right. Well, and you know, and I mean, the reality
could
is
say
though,
Staff
when
needs
We could
to-
help
when we have
staff
rotating
or
staff,
somebody
Yeah.
else.
Yeah.
we're gonna be
Put
the.
somebody in
Right.
there who's doing something else.
People that, you know, have a little history, so
Mhm.
Who are we
we
helping?
help each other.
Who are we helping? Who is it? We are helping staff, okay.
Yeah, we're helping staff
Yeah.
kind of, you know,
Right, okay,
and they're helping us.
yes,
Yeah.
right, okay.
All right, so it sounds like we're okay with this the way it is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we want to move that forward to
An hour later.
the council for consideration?
Good work, looks good.
Okay.
Okay, old business. So the old business, I know, is the RFP. Can you give us an update on the RFP?
Yes, so the RFP for the master plan is out, to my knowledge. And I spoke with Jordan about the group that will form once the consultant is hired. What he would like to do is wait to form that group until consultant's hired, Nancy's up and running, but he.
Nancy.
Yeah, an admin.
So I kind of heard that, recently, but tell everybody else about that. I don't know if
Oh,
everybody
okay, you may
knows.
know more pieces than I do, but Nancy
Yeah.
has been hired to basically, from what I understand, I may need further clarification, is to be the liaison between staff and the consultant and work with, the group, the master planning group. And, that will certainly be made up of some members of this board, but not, as it stands right now, this entire board. So it could be the chair and probably another individual.
And then they're gonna have, representatives from different, well, I guess we'll just wait and see, but.
Yeah, I think
What,
we're still in
you know,
this
yeah.
very beginning stages,
Yeah.
and this is forming as we go, but
Mhm.
please keep sending me questions for clarification, because it's also helping me get up to speed and get clarified, so if you're not satisfied that my answer is in-depth enough, let me know, and I will go get more answers, because I am learning as I go, so, and enjoying it.
Yeah, it's a big process, and
Mhm.
so, yeah, we'll all have to kind of just roll along and learn as we go.
Yeah, we do have lots of experience, Dawn has lots of experience, I think quite a few board members here have been through.
The rest of us are just trying to pedal and catch
Yeah,
up,
we
right?
kind of, the last one was pretty, it was pretty basic but, it was also, 20-something years ago, so it's 1997, and I remember my,
Exciting.
baby was in a bassinet, she's getting her master's now, so I don't remember stuff that well. It'll be great, it'll be fun. It's fun to kind of, just see it, sausage being made and then get to eat it, so.
Do you want me to talk about the other RFP?
Yeah.
Okay, so the other
Yeah.
RFP is in draft form, but I think it's pretty close and almost ready to go. We'd like to send it out next week for the Bornstedt shade structures and the dog park shade structures. It is written the way it is because the funding will come from different places. The dog park has funds raised as fundraisers, which will be paying for those shelters, and depending on what kind of comes back with regard to cost, we may have some more money to spend out of those funds raised to do some additional things in the park, which we discussed at the last meeting. But I will come back to you once we know what we have. Definitely think the idea of building a kiosk into those shade structures, as Catherine mentioned, was a great idea. That will come after the consultant's hired, we'll talk to them about options at that time. So, I noticed it right away, it wasn't written in the RFP, but it was recommended to me that we just wait till the consultant's hired, and then we'll have options for that kind of thing, so.
So, some of the questions, are you ready for questions yet?
Well, we'll see, fire away.
Okay, so like, has the sighting of these things been done yet? Somebody said something about they saw it
Yes,
out of the
so
dog park.
it was
Yeah.
James and I at
Okay.
the dog park and at Bornstedt. We went out and measured. And so the conceptual idea, and you'll see it in this RFP, we want two costs on the dog park shade structure that's going to go over the curved area.
Right.
Because we want to see what it
Yeah.
might cost to match that. We're
Right.
expecting that to be a little more expensive, but then also want to get the just straight out.
Yeah.
By the
mill.
curved area, you're talking about like where they sit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right,
The-
and so
the-
if there's enough funds there,
Okay.
for us to do something that complements that, I think that was
Yeah.
Dawn's idea, or, we would like to do that, we're just not sure whether it will be affordable, so we're gonna look at that. And then out at Bornstedt, the areas that were measured were right there next to the splash pad. There's the picnic tables is one area, and then there's some benches that are kind of border the playground itself.
Oh, okay, between the splash pad,
Mhm.
so one of them's
Yes.
going between the playground and the splash pad, and one's going over where all
The
the
tables are. And then in the master plan, there is also more plan, the gazebo and so forth, but
Over
for the
the
short
garden,
term,
yeah.
yeah, to get something over there now.
That would be exciting.
I think it's great.
Yeah.
Okay, you think it's ready to go, and we can send that out?
Well,
You haven't looked at it yet?
no, I did, I
Okay.
did. So here's kind of, so things like, do we need to have submittals, like what kind of wood are you gonna be using? That wasn't spelled out. So submittals are usually kind of spell out all those details. And so process-wise, and of course, just full disclosure, some of this was, I asked Mike about it,
Mhm.
and I said, did you have a chance to look at that and review it? Now, I don't know, I didn't quite get an answer, but I don't think that parks maintenance folks reviewed this.
Okay,
So just from a process standpoint,
Okay.
it would be helpful to make sure that those guys, because they're gonna have to be mowing the lawn and doing all that. So he was like, well, what are you putting this on? Concrete, slab, packed gravel, what's the plan? So I said, well, I think the Bornstedt one
Oh,
already
yeah,
has,
concrete.
It already has
the concrete,
yeah.
but the other one doesn't, so then the question was, are you gonna pour a slab or what? That was the question, yeah.
You know, I think we were anticipating pouring a slab, but let me go back to James, because he's more.
Because that's not at all in the RFP,
Okay.
and that's what would really change the cost.
Change the cost.
Because on the boring
Okay.
gazebo, when I got the cost for all that, you know, I kinda asked the boring guys, you know, how much, who did this, how much did it cost, do you have the plans, blah, blah, blah. When I sent it to Kelly, he said, oh, yeah, but most of the cost of that was probably the slab. I don't know if that's true, but, you know, he said, we wouldn't have the slab in this case, so it would be you know, but the slab and all that is not in the RFP.
Okay.
And so, you know, that's where.
Be sure that we're covering our bases.
Well, that's what, you know, what Mike said was that usually you would have a submittal for all materials, used for review, like hemlock and whatever, or cedar, you know, one hemlock. And then you'd have a site plan and elevations, that's the other thing.
We
is that-
did get the elevations, James did, I think at the bottom of the RFP, it says if you want more information about those elevations, but I have to review it there.
So
But
a
I'll-
site plan with elevations on it,
Mhm.
so you have.
Well, in terms of a site plan, let me just say there's, you know, James has a photograph and he has put the measurements in along with the elevations for that more complex area and the clearance and those kinds of things. But it
So,
sounds like
yeah.
you
Well, you might just
recommend-
talk to Mike and just,
Okay.
because he does this kind of stuff all the time and
Yeah,
just to,
he
you know, if
helped
you
me
want.
with the dog park fencing.
Right, and if you wanted a successful bid and not apples, oranges, and pomegranates, it's very helpful to have, you know, him look at it and make sure that, you know, you're gonna get apples to apples.
Okay.
To compare, because, yeah. And like I said, the whole slab thing was not, yeah. Oh, and then he did say, and that's kind of going back to your Oregon whatever thing, list, consider a package manufacturer's kit that has specs. An example of that is like, you know, the CXT toilets, those concrete toilets,
Mhm.
you know, when you, and they have, gazebos also,
yeah.
they're, you know, I don't know if they're any good, but, you know, they're concrete, they look like wood kind of, but they're concrete.
Yeah, I saw those restroom ones.
Yeah.
He was using them.
I sent
Yeah,
him
he was in-
maybe 4 or 5 different bits of information to Kelly.
Yeah.
I think
So-
that Kelly did get some of that information,
Yeah.
I believe he did.
But what's helpful with those kind of package deals is all the specs and everything are all there, so you, so.
So you just pick one,
Yeah,
take their specs.
Yeah, and then you give that to the contractor, and that's the package that you would normally give a contractor. So instead of having,
And what did you call it, Kathleen?
well, you know, it's a package manufacturer's kit, you know.
It's just, you can just put down specifications.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of an off-the-shelf type
Yeah.
item. But see, also if this Oregon contract, what is it, Oregon? list?
Oregon
Cooperative
Cooperative
Procurement.
Procurement
Yeah.
Program. I
If
had to
there's-
write it down.
Yeah, if there's some of those on there, those will already have all those specs. Now, they may not have all the elevations and everything, but, they'll have, isn't that right? Tom?
They won't have the elevations.
No, they
because-
won't have it.
Well, they'll have some basic ones, but,
Yeah.
you know, they won't have any of the site stuff to do with it.
But, you know, like the depth of the you know, concrete pads,
Yeah, I'll tell you the
slabs and all that stuff.
Specifications you're gonna
Specs.
need for
Right,
install.
right. So, that's what I'm saying is that getting one off of the, you know, if we can get one off of that list.
We're
it'd be-
having trouble making connection yet though, so it might hold us up quite a bit.
Yeah, and he does, I mean, he can, it's all very self-explanatory on the.
Go to that. It's
Yeah,
kinda
he just
like-
asked who I'd worked with before, and I said, well, I know this gal in Ashland
Okay,
was done.
so I can maybe direct him a little bit more targeted
Yeah.
to.
It looks like you
to
can
the
just maybe
actual-
sign up on the
Yeah.
website.
It's
Yeah.
like signing up for,
Yeah.
you know.
And there is a small fee, and it's
Yeah.
based on what, you know, what the
Yeah.
city's budget is.
Sure.
You know, it's do you have a greater than $150 million budget for Sandy? Yes, oh, maybe. Well, that's the top end, so that'd be a $5,000 fee, annual membership, so.
And it's one of those things that could save us in the long run.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, especially for
Well,
where I
it
see-
might,
yeah.
it might pay for itself real quick.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
certainly,
Yeah,
certainly
have a
in time.
small-
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
if, you know, I don't know what the process is, but, I mean, if it becomes an issue, definitely bring it to council, you know, and that goes without saying probably, but.
It's definitely something I think we wanna pursue, it's just a question of, with this particular RFP, and
But
the.
even if it isn't, you know, maybe even moving forward in other,
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
things, so, yeah.
And you may not
Yeah.
even need this RFP if you can go right off of that.
Yeah.
You've got, then you're gonna have everything already with a bow on it. Because if you go out with this RFP as it is, you're gonna come up with, again, there's just not enough specificity for people to bid on, because they're all gonna interpret it a little differently, so, anyway, that's something to consider. You know, talk to Mike about it more, he can tell you more about how that goes.
Okay.
So you're saying it's too vague?
It's too
It's,
vague.
it's
I
too,
mean,
it's
it wasn't-
too vague to get
yeah.
good bids, cause we talked
Yeah.
about that before,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, it
That
didn't even say anything about
you
wood.
need to kinda
so-
steer the ship a little bit.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
somebody's gonna bid on pine and
Sure.
somebody else is gonna bid on.
Sure.
redwood,
And I
so-
think that's the
Yeah.
feedback Kelly wanted, was
So you
just,
can't
know,
compare.
what-
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And
we
you
have a
don't
little
know,
more
yeah.
work to do on it before we can get it out.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
But like I said, I think it would be even more effective and efficient to just get on that list and
Yeah.
pick, because, you know, that boring one may be on there, and if not, there's other, I mean, those shelters are pretty endemic. Now, the circular one, you know, can you use those and then kind of change them up a little?
Well, it depends on the vendor, you know,
Yeah.
typically
Probably
they are
depends
a
on the
package,
material, right?
and
Yeah.
then it also depends on your contractor, so.
Yeah.
A lot of times you can hire your contractor through the vendor,
Mhm.
they'll have installers that they work
Mhm.
with, and that's a nice, easy way of doing it.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, you're hiring, you're putting it together as a package.
But then you could do like change orders, like
You can,
A little bit.
typically, if you wanna add rock to the base, or if you want
something
to.
like that, that wasn't on there, yeah.
Yeah.
So do you
Yeah.
think, you know, with your experience, like something like that curve structure, that we would need an architect involved in something like that? That's what we're.
Possibly.
worried about.
Talk to Mike, that's,
Okay.
you know,
Yeah,
that's what,
you may need an
Yeah,
architect for that.
and then,
Yeah.
then I think it probably gets to be cost prohibitive.
Yeah.
So I'd like a little direction from you with that regard then, so, you know, if it comes back that that particular project with the curved, structure eats up the $20,000 we've raised, would you want to spend it that way, or would you rather have us go with something more standard and be able to do some of the other things we discussed in the book?
well, you know, I think at the dog park, we have the one that's kind of between the big and the little dog, right?
Mhm, that would
And
be
that's
best.
standard.
Mhm.
And then on the round one, you know, you could still do a straight one, but not curve it, right?
Right.
You could. you
That's
know,
what I'm saying, is there's
Yeah.
those two options.
Yeah, I mean, I would, if, you know, if you have to, I think if you can kind of get things, you know, I guess I'm not married to the curve, because you're just trying to stay out of the rain and whatnot.
On the sun. Okay.
But that's, you know,
Anybody else have that feeling?
I guess I would rather us spend our money on, you know, something more,
Doing more.
that's more, got more people using it. You know, I don't know how many people will sit under there. I mean, not to say we don't get crowds or anything, but I don't know. You know, more dirt, you know, I'd rather spend money on like more dog parks
Yeah.
than, you know, spend $80, $90, $100,000 on some nice
Well,
curved
this is
thing.
unspecifically raised to do with. all kinds of
$20,000
things.
isn't gonna hardly.
Well, that's what I'm saying,
That's
so
what
we're
she's-
gonna
yeah,
have
that's
to
what
make
she's
some
getting at.
decisions.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
not gonna, you
Is
know,
do you wanna
you're lucky
spend-
if you get one.
Right, well, and that's what she's saying, is
Yeah.
like, you know, if it, let's say you have to go out for an architect for that curvature, right?
Yeah.
And is that something that you wanna spend all that money on, or would you rather like spread the wealth a little bit? Do something smaller and then
If
be
we
able to
only
use
have
other things?
$20,000, you're gonna barely get one.
Oh, that's all the budget is?
Yeah,
I wouldn't worry about the curve.
okay,
Yeah.
that's, was my instinct as
Yeah.
well, okay.
That's what your
As
architect fee is
beautiful as
gonna
it would
be.
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna say, yeah.
Okay.
You'll end up with a beautiful picture.
I don't know if you'll get even two
You can frame it.
gazebos, right?
Yeah, well, that's the thing, we know that, and we're just gonna, you know, do.
Yeah.
bit
But it's a
by
good
bit.
suggestion.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, and we're gonna keep raising funds, so,
Mhm.
you know, we'll know what kind of our priorities are.
Hmm.
Start with something.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other?
Okay, so,
Staff, do we have any other old business?
see if I have anything else on.
Oh,
So, everybody thinks the flow chart idea that I talked to is a great idea, so once we get a little farther along in that master plan process, Dawn has suggested that maybe a flow chart of how that master plan is going to work communication-wise and who's doing what type of thing.
Did I miss that? What?
It was at the last meeting, he was just saying it might help all of us to understand you know,
Everybody's
once.
rolling.
Oh,
Yeah,
right. Oh,
yeah.
okay,
And
right.
How
so,
decisions are
that's
made.
something we're gonna try and follow up on.
Okay.
And I think unless you guys have any questions about those updates.
Oh, let's just ask about, so everybody did get their little flyers out, posted and
Yeah.
stuff?
Yes.
I never
And-
got it. I think
No,
I
you
was
weren't
supposed
here.
to
You weren't
get it.
here.
There. that's
No,
what
but
I
I
weren't
mean,
here, so you didn't get it.
We
I
just
think I-
handed out, yeah.
Right, oh, okay.
Is there any other follow-up on Long Beach State Parkway? And do you want us to, when is that?
It is the
20th,
20th, yeah.
yeah.
Of what?
I mean, you guys have participated in the past,
The
haven't you?
20th of what?
June.
June, this, like,
That's next
next
week.
Mhm.
Tuesday?
Next Thursday, actually.
Thursday.
Oh.
Two different things. In the past, we staffed a table and
Mhm.
just talked to people about, you know, hey, which neighborhood, you know, told them about the different parks and handed out swag and all that. Last year it was kind of, James and, I think they had an intern or something staffing the table and doing something, so, I unfortunately have 22 people for a family reunion.
What?
So that's why the yard crashers situation comes, so yeah, I won't be able to come. but,
It's on the 20th?
20th, yeah,
Thursday.
and it's
What
over in
time?
the Timberline Trails neighborhood.
It's great.
Kind of based around that little park area there.
Are you gonna have a table for parks?
Well, you know, I hadn't had it planned a separate one for, let me just check back in and get back to you on that.
Okay.
Because if you look, actually, if you go to the website, go to the
Mhm.
city's website, and I
What-
can
what
show
time
you
does it
what's
start?
current, you can see what's currently planned, and that will answer that question, but it doesn't mean it can't be improved. We staff a community services table, and I have recreation programs and things that we do.
But we always had a parks table too.
Okay.
So
But
it's
if, no, you know,
Timberline
maybe
and-
you just
Right.
join in.
Timberline.
Just
Yeah.
trying to find that.
Longest.
Oh,
Yeah,
annual,
the
if you go
Timberline
under
neighborhood,
activity, yeah,
yeah.
annual city events, you go to Longest State Parkway, you'll see the map.
Don't go to Timberline Rim, you'll end up in Welch's.
Right,
So, It's confusing though, isn't it?
Or you go to
So-
Timberline, and they end up at Timberline.
And what time does it start?
6:30?
Yeah,
Yeah,
6:30 to
6:30 to
8.
8.
I assume that's PM, right?
I don't see, particularly a table specifically for parks, but I imagine that if anybody is interested in coming to being with the community services department, you know, to represent the board and maybe
Might be
do
a
some
great opportunity to
recruiting,
do some
yeah.
recruiting,
You know, I
yeah.
don't see any reason why you wouldn't be welcome to do that.
No, I think that's really important.
Mhm.
You know, I have to say, when we had it the year before in Sandy Bluff, I mean, people didn't know about the Tickle Creek Trail, they didn't know about the splash pad, they didn't know about, you know, they're just always kind of got, what, we have
I
what,
know.
you know?
I
And
get that about the
so,
splash pad.
yeah, you know, I mean,
Right.
so it is really a popular thing to have somebody, you know, there to kind of, you know, have this poster up and then, you know, just ask people with little kids, hey, do you guys like to go to the
This is
splash?
great.
You know,
Yeah.
go to the splash pad, do you like Tickle Creek Trail or the Jim Slagle Loop Trail or, you know, all those things. Is there anybody that can go to it?
I think I can go to it.
Okay,
I'm not sure, I probably can.
great.
So if you look at the map, you can see where community services will be. We're gonna be right in that corner of the park. And.
What are you guys looking at?
Oh, the city webpage, you
yeah.
can pass the
Oh.
computer over to
You can't stick it up there.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh.
I can bring parks maps, and I will see if I can
And so
bring
it
this.
starts right
Yeah.
on the,
Yeah, bring a
This
box of
map.
maps.
It just all kind of stays
Number
right
5.
there, yeah.
oh, it
That's-
stays at the park.
Yeah. It's kind of a booth
Okay,
setup
let me
thing.
go back and put that in my minutes.
It is kind of fun.
Yeah, it's real popular.
So you mean, but how, where, oh, the walk is the yellow thing? Yeah, right, sorry.
I'll be there, I'll just be wearing a different hat.
Yeah, I should be able to be there.
Get during fire?
Yeah.
Yeah,
For a truck.
that's what popped
Mhm. Yep.
Huh, oh, neat. Okay, thanks.
So yeah, if you could make it, that'd be great for you guys to just staff it in. Yeah, thank you. Okay, and then do we have, any other folks, any other applications?
Yes, so, Robert, have you filled out your application yet?
I am not.
Okay, so we'll look for that, but I do have one from Amber Pritchard, and she'll be coming to the meeting in July. Do similar thing to
remember her
observe,
from
and then
the-
we'll follow up.
Oh, yeah.
And then we'll follow up. But as soon as we have an application, Robert, if you're still interested, we
Yes.
will give you a call and set up time to.
And CJ texted me the other day, asked me when the meeting was, and I told him tonight, but, so, yeah. That's what probably came up, so.
that people have heard or in the community?
Well, if you're kind of opening it up, I don't know if you guys know, and this of course isn't here, but just moving forward, kind of as we go into our master plan, Hood River opened up their pump park.
Oh, yeah.
But the grand opening is Saturday,
Yeah.
and it's pretty cool. I'll pull up a picture of it here on my phone.
Yeah.
So it's,
Oh, yeah, where is it?
yeah, so it's over in their golden, let me get that for you. It is, let's see if my phone went to images. It's in their Golden Eagle Park, which I think is over by, off of Indian Creek Road. So by the high school.
Okay.
And I'll pass this picture around so the rest of you guys can kind of look at it. It's pretty cool.
Is this it?
Yeah, there it is. So it's like a skate park for bikes, and skaters can use it too.
Nice.
They've got a grand opening Saturday at 2 o'clock for it, and they're gonna have a whole bunch of vendors and a bunch of stuff out. But that's really cool. So
That's kind of what we're talking about.
yeah, so moving forward with some stuff,
Yeah, and see-
this would be great.
See, Northwest Trails Alliance built, into Gateway Green.
I have not been there.
They have another one at Gateway Green.
Yeah.
Where's that?
Gateway Green is like this landlocked piece of land between the railroad, 84 and 205.
Yeah, I don't know if you
It's
noticed.
kind of where
but
Rocky
the
Butte
Oh,
Jail
oh,
used to be.
right,
It's
yeah,
getting
okay.
out of hand. It feels like there's.
What's that?
It's kind of where Rocky Butte Jail
Used to be, yeah. But anyway, that was kind of cool, and it's kind of neat to see what other
That's very cool.
communities are doing, and
And they call it a pump park
A pump
rather
park.
than a skate park.
Yep.
Because people.
not bikes, you put bikes on it,
For bicycles.
Oh, it's just for bicycles?
Yep.
Or for
No,
everything?
not just,
Skates,
but-
skates,
Officially
and
open to the public.
here's the Gateway
Once open,
Green
the
one.
park will be available to ride from dawn till dusk without entry fee. The amount of work that went into making this a reality, both physically and politically, is impressive to say the least. But saying the finished product reflects it is an understatement. Special thanks go to the Northwest Trail Alliance, Portland Parks and
Trail
Recreation,
Alliance,
and
yeah.
all of the volunteers who
You
put
work on
countless
that?
hours into this project to
I'm
make
sure
it a
there's a couple
reality.
other things here.
Gateway Green is Portland's first mountain bike specific park, covering 25 acres, lying just east of I-205 across from Rocky View. It's also just a few blocks away from the Gateway Transit Center. It's accessible by either the 205 bike path or the blue, green, and red path. And it's only 7 miles away from River City
So we can
Bicycles.
get grants.
So Gateway is divided into about 3 different sections. The southernmost part of the park is a floating downhill trail that feeds into a wooded single track section that climbs up along
They
the
do
east
need it to
eventually
miles.
dropping you down
Is
to
that
the
all?
flat
No,
sides.
That's all to the left.
Down
And
the
it's
sections
all
of the
just
park
free, it's
lots of
open to
rollers,
public,
berms,
right?
corners,
Yeah.
Whoever wants to go in can.
Yeah.
Well, enjoy.
sections are great for the sun.
Yeah.
Get your mountain bike and head on
Logs
in.
and review sections.
But it's a great, great place for families to go hang
Check out the
out.
skills section. The skills section
Yep,
includes
take
the
your
skills
photos.
track,
And they do,
a couple of short downhill runs,
Yeah,
several
they-
man-made wooden features,
and they have-
and for more advanced riders, a pretty big jump.
what they usually do is they, build some real basic stuff and then more challenging stuff. And even on the more challenging stuff, they have a ride around so
Mhm.
that, if you get up there and you're not,
Yeah.
Comfortable, yeah.
but, yeah, so that's
Hmm.
They're very cool.
coming soon to Sandy,
Just some
hopefully.
other possibilities.
Oh.
The other thing I love seeing now too is just the inclusive parks and the sensory gardens. And Melissa Thompson, who is the senior services manager, has quite a bit of knowledge about sensory gardens. And I'd love her to come sometime and talk to you more about that as we get deeper into the master planning process. So
Yeah.
it'd be nice to consider some of those more natural features in the parks and then some sensory inclusive type features and.
There's also been some real, kind of barrier-free designs that really allow all kids, even if, they're in a chair or anything like that, very easy transitions and holistic, kind of inclusive designs for the, and I have to say, we do not have that very well. And I know, it's been at least 5 years that, some mom, contacted us and said, there's no accessible swings in the park. And so,
I've heard that from a few people, I've heard that a few
Yeah.
times, yeah, out in the community.
Yeah, and so, that's another thing where I'm sure that's probably on that list of,
Yeah.
we could easily just go on there and buy it at, a discounted price, and so, and just
some of those swings with the little push-down bars so the kids can't fall out?
Typically it's a large molded seat. with a-
Yeah,
Mhm.
oh, more of
It's
a
got like a
harness.
roller
I've
coaster
seen those,
thing.
Yeah.
yep, yep.
But even
Yeah.
just, you know,
You see 'em in
Bornstedt
all
Park,
the
the
new parks.
newest park, right?
Yeah.
There's one access point in that's handicap accessible, and
Yeah.
it's at the far
Far
corner of
end,
the park.
Yeah, where they
Right.
can't get to
Right.
it.
Like-
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think in our new master plan, we really
Yeah.
want to.
Yeah.
I think they used to have those types of swings over at the DeBarco, the park back there at
That was
DeBarco,
where
and they
it was
got
requested.
broke.
Norwood?
Yeah, they
At
got
Norwood.
broke. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
where
Yeah, thank you
Nancy
for throwing the name out.
Nancy added
Yeah.
that after.
Cause they did
the
have,
request
they
was
did
made.
have those,
Yeah.
my parents live right across the street,
Mhm.
so.
And that came
um,
after that request.
Yep.
Yeah, we did,
Yeah.
that's right, and then they got broke.
They got broken.
Well,
Like, I
that's
see a lot of big kids sitting on.
Yeah, that's the
Huh.
problem.
That's-
Oh.
Yeah.
I sat in one this weekend in the new park of Clayton Northwest.
She gave it a try.
My niece, and probably should have.
But now what they have are kind of the more,
Yeah, they're
they're
bigger,
discs
yeah.
and stuff,
Mhm.
they're kind of more
Yeah.
like a little
Yeah.
hammocky thing.
Mhm.
And so the big kids can sit
Yeah.
on them, but, you know, you can get from a wheelchair onto it. It's kind of neat.
Yeah,
Huh.
it is.
Is there anything happening with the pool and all the land
Not right now.
down there? Nothing,
Not
it's all
yet.
just sitting
No.
there and nobody's talking about anything? Okay.
Well, there's talk, yeah, there's talk and there's moving forward, so just to kind of give you some, an update on that, since you've asked. What we're currently looking at is going out for a Parks and Recreation District, or a Parks District. So that'll be going out to the voters, hopefully. There'd be some research being done into that and whatnot, for next year's. And then if that were to pass, we would be able to get enough funds to form a district, and then you would see the pool and all of that move forward. So that's kind of where we're sitting right now.
And the district would mean that whole, like, the school district?
The district boundaries haven't been drawn yet, we
Right,
could
but
use
it'd
the
be
fire
bigger than
district
the
boundaries,
city
we could
probably,
use the
yeah.
school district boundaries, we could create a different district, but, yeah, and so that's kind of, right now, the council's, the direction that we're moving in. The intention is not to keep the pool closed,
Right.
by any means. So, and I know a lot of people feel that way, but
Yeah.
that is not the intention, so.
Oh,
And how does that all kind of match up with the master plan? Is that something like you're gonna try to get the master plan done, or almost done, you know, a draft at least, and then?
For the
kind of
parks, you mean?
For the park district, because usually you kind of, you know, it's like the high school, you have this plan for a new high school and everything, and that's what you're getting.
Well, that'll be a process moving forward, so right now, we're just in the preliminary, this is, staff has been given direction that this is what we wanna look at, and so they're working on all of the pieces that go with that, so.
But see, I guess, let me try to rephrase it, because for a park district, you know, usually you kind of have to have some sort of a, it would be, I'm not sure real effective to kind of just say, you know, we have all the parks out here, we're just gonna go after an operational bond. You know, there's the operational bonds, and then there's the
Right, so,
development bonds.
right, so right now, staff's kind of looking at all of those different options.
I did
We're-
spend
we're
a
really
couple of
early.
hours
Which
with.
staff are we talking about? Jordan, or
Whoever Jordan's delegated, yeah.
are you working on that, or?
I'm not personally working on that, I know Tanya's working on a piece of it, and I know other people are working on different pieces of
Yeah.
it, looking at options.
Yeah, so.
I had a cup of coffee with a couple of counselors
Mhm.
a few weeks ago. And spent quite a bit of time talking about what we did when we formed the North Clackamas Park District.
Mhm. So there's a lot of stuff going on there, yeah. Does that answer your question?
sounds pretty mysterious, but yeah, I mean, yeah, because I just didn't know. I didn't know. Sandy Post doesn't tell you much of anything about any
Sure.
important
They
thing.
try,
Anyway, I just
but,
kind of-
yeah.
but-
Shooting for an election in November 20,
Mhm.
the general.
Mhm.
Yeah. Hmm.
Any other questions, or you have anything?
Well, there was one more thing on the agenda, and it may not be on this printed copy, I
Oh,
realize,
okay.
that was one of the things I may not have saved.
That's okay.
But, so, this is partially an agenda item and partially some help for me, in going forward to do what it is you guys would like to do. Kathleen and I have had a bit of a discussion about this, but I also think it would help, not just developers, but people involved in development plans and things like that, to know when the board would like to review, plans for parks and new developments. And from what I've sort of been described to me, it's good to get in there early, right, so you get your recommendations in before they get too far along in the process, and then they're a couple weeks away from, say, approval, and then it comes almost too late for the board. So I'm just trying to find something that will help me come to you at the right time, and planning to come to you at the right time, because of course they wanna come and answer questions. And, you know, on occasion, we are gonna have somebody involved with the development company want to come and speak personally to the board about their vision and their plan. So I'm just looking for a little direction from you, and then possibly developing something, or planning, really developing, I should say, development services. Something that the developers could look at and say, oh, okay, so here's when, you know, I should plan on presenting this, or when development services will present it to the person. So, Kathleen and I talked about it a little bit, but
Yeah.
I wanted to include the whole board.
Yeah, and so just from a clarification standpoint, the process as it's operated in the past, and I, you know, I say that we're married to that, but my understanding of the process was that we have a Parks Master Plan, and when there's a development going on, and on the Parks Master Plan, there's a conceptual park location in that general area, that's when we would kind of get involved. If there was no park or trail located in that area, generally the development goes along without us. Now, what's happened in the past is sometimes developers wanted to park there, even though it wasn't called for on the plan, and then they kind of came, and they really never came to us, they went to
Right.
Nancy and,
Sure.
you know, and, but she came back and said, well, here's, they hire a landscape architect to design a little park, and we, you know, give our input on the, you know, location or the design of the park or whatever, and then they run with it. So we haven't really been involved unless there was a planned park in the 97 master plan. Once there is, usually, you know, exactly when that happens, because they do a preliminary site, you know, they kind of start the process with, you know more about this than I do, John, preliminary site plan or something like that, and then they, you know, start horse trading, well, they want, you know, smaller lots or more lots or this or that, you know, there's some horse trading that goes on, and at some point, it comes to the park staff gets to look at it, and that person brings it to this group, and we kind of, you know, for example, the Deer Point Park. I remember when that came, they wanted to give us all the stuff along the highway. Well, you know, that's kind of, you know, how generous
Great
of them,
location,
you know,
yeah.
yeah, so
Right.
we said, well, thanks, but no thanks, and it is our choice,
Mhm.
and of course, that's my understanding. Now, to tell that, you know, we may not have as much choice as, or maybe the new master plan will make it more clear, but, you know, that's something for David Duthman to kind of clarify, because I know that came up on the Pond Lane situation. But the plan was that, you know, we would kind of just provide input, like it'd be nice to have it over, on Deer Point, we said we wanted it on the east side of the parcel, so that we could marry that to the, you know, when the other part,
development.
so then we can kind of have one big park.
Sure.
So that's the kind of input we give,
Mhm.
and is kind of preliminary, general location, and, you know, they have to give us so many acres. You know, but that's kind of the process. And then, you know, I have to say, I don't think I have ever had, you know, maybe Nancy, you could ask her,
Yeah.
she has better memory than I do. I don't really recall a developer coming to the Parks Board.
Yeah, that was really
And I think,
unusual.
I think that, you know, that may not happen very often, but
Yeah.
I think, you know, it's an open meeting, and if they
Oh,
would like to
certainly.
come and address you personally, then,
Yeah.
then I think we want to
Yeah.
welcome them.
Yeah, oh, it's certainly, that's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But I kind of got the feeling like we were being, you know, that there was some perception that I was worried about, and that I don't really want to create this perception that we're like the planning commission, because we're not making any decisions.
Sure.
So it's
You're
like,
just making recommendations.
I know, but they kind of wanted to, you know, us to make a decision tonight, because they want, you know,
Yeah.
and I was just
There
like,
was a lot of
it was a
pressure.
little pressure, and
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
not comfortable for
Yeah.
us,
No.
and
I
so.
watched it, yeah, yeah.
You know, we're like,
Yeah.
you know, and the other thing that
Well,
happened.
maybe he was just trying to get buy-in.
Yeah, something like that.
Maybe he was just
Yeah.
hoping for, hey, this is what we would like to move, and I'm purely speaking hypothetical.
Mhm.
But, you know, maybe it was, hey, this is what we would like to do, and we have the approval of the Parks Board.
Mhm.
So maybe
Yeah.
it
Or
was
the
just-
support of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And to
So
build some
maybe just
momentum.
trying to
Right.
get some.
But see, for me, when, you know, what happens in those, you know, not that I've ever sat through one, but I kind of, go to planning commission meetings and stuff. But what happens is, there's a lot of, for example, this Deer Point one, the first thing I'm asking, because they still kind of want to give us something over by the highway next to DeBarco Road. And I said, so are we going to be on the hook for doing all the highway turn lanes and all that stuff if we take that land? We don't know anything about that. So, but I'm sure Kelly and all those guys, they might know about all that stuff. And so, that's why, in my opinion, it's better to have, the staff person who's already talked to the other people to say, well, here's some of the concerns we have with them proposing this, that if we take this, it's gonna, here's the pros and here's the cons.
Well, you have another avenue too that you can explore, which would be that, you can ask for council's, direction or and get input from council, and then that might give you a little more teeth in that avenue as well. That's always an avenue that you can go down.
Yeah.
Don't forget about that.
Yeah. But
So-
sometimes it's just the guys that know the technical code
Oh,
stuff
I
that's
think by all
gonna,
means, use staff
they
as much
should-
as you can,
So,
yeah.
so that's what I'm saying, is that they should be kind of the ones to kind of provide, to make a presentation. That is what's happened in the past, is
Right.
that Tracy or Kelly or whatever would come to us and say, and that's when we'd kind of be talking about it.
Mhm.
And so I'm welcome the developers to come too if they
Sure.
want, but I really want somebody who knows the pros and cons from the city side,
Mhm.
because otherwise I feel like we're getting a little spin.
No, absolutely,
And-
absolutely.
And they are totally on board with that.
Yeah,
They are
yep.
more than happy to come
Yeah.
to any of those particular
Yep.
meetings where that is going to be on the agenda.
Yeah, because remember, you guys as a board represent the city
Yeah.
and the people who live here. So you should never feel like you're being railroaded, so.
I mean, the developer's there to represent his interests and stuff,
And that's fine,
and,
and he should,
we
or
don't,
they
we
should,
don't know enough
whoever they
about
may
all
be.
that.
Absolutely.
We're just kind of ignorant about
Yeah.
that, so I just don't want to kind of, have us make a recommendation that then, causes, us, because we didn't know, well, if we do
Yeah.
that, then this.
Yeah.
So,
But just, in the
Yeah.
future, just,
Yeah.
definitely, use your
yeah,
resources, yeah.
Yeah.
What did come of that place over there? The one where they came?
The Ponder Lane
Yeah,
development.
what's happened with that?
I think he's doing a fee in lieu of,
I do not know.
yeah.
Okay, well, so the challenge with that is, do we know we have a willing seller? We don't.
I don't know any of the
Yeah.
details
Yeah.
beyond that, so.
I mean, that's the challenge, is if we don't have a willing seller over there, that neighborhood won't have a park. And that's my concern, so,
A willing seller,
yeah.
meaning?
Meaning, if he pays us money, then we have to go buy land and build a park.
Oh, right, now,
Even though
somewhere
there was
else.
a park identified in the 97 master plan.
There, right,
And
yeah.
so that's the, so we don't know, we don't even know if we have a willing seller, and if we don't, then they won't have a park at all, so that's the
Right,
challenge.
but then that's a decision that's kind of now been kind of taken out of the hands in the immediate future of the Parks Board.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
no,
so-
no,
So
it's all
because
on,
the
it's
the
on-
planning commission
not
and
on
the
us at all.
council agreed to
Yeah.
what those developers wanted?
Yeah.
But when those 100 homes don't have a park and are bitching and moaning, they're gonna come to the Parks
Well,
Board meeting and
No,
stuff.
Well,
not
yeah, why
necessarily,
did
not necessarily, because then it just gets reverted back to the people who made those decisions,
Oh,
and,
no, I know,
and-
it's
and-
too late to do anything
So-
about it,
But
yeah.
why did the council opt that way? Do you know why?
You're welcome to come to council meetings.
It's
I mean,
a
was it-
complicated situation, it really is, isn't it?
So-
I know they had that thing like access to the road and this and that, but.
There was a lot of things that went into
Hmm.
those decisions, and just the determination of the location and some other things, so.
Right. But it wasn't like kind of a reflection of the extra kind of aggressiveness of those particular developers or
No.
anything?
No.
It was just the situation
Yep.
and all the complexities.
Mhm.
and-
It was probably recorded, right? I mean, it was
Yeah.
supposed to.
It was what?
I'm sure
The meetings are all recorded, I
Oh.
would,
You understand.
I mean, I could go back and find out when that meeting
Oh,
was
I
if you
mean, I
wanted to
just
watch
wanted a
it,
general
but, yeah.
idea,
But that's all stuff that will come up in the new master plan. of
Sure.
kind of, when we do have a park location, and that's the challenge is.
We need to find a new area over there.
And this will be a case study also as to, now what do we do? How do we, do these
you know, install a tunnel over to Bornstedt.
And it may have
And
been,
then
I'm trying to remember, it may have been tabled at the time. I'd have to go back and look, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's one of those
Yeah, I mean,
that,
there's a lot of highway
there's
projects.
a lot of stuff going
Yeah.
on, so I would have to go back and look. It maybe has been tabled for a later date, but that was one of the topics that came up in discussion, so
Mhm.
I apologize for not putting Johnny on the spot with that one.
So you
I-
were asking this a
Well,
question
so-
for the future, right?
And so it sounds, I'm just kind of absorbing, but it's kind of a case-by-case basis, right? So when we are in, planning has something they wanna come to you, for
Oh,
review,
yeah.
they're gonna come.
Yeah.
And if we have somebody who's involved in the development that would like to come, we'll put them on the agenda, but that doesn't happen very often.
Well, I think what's important also is that, we kind of worked on some preliminary stuff for, future parks, whatever. We don't have a master plan though.
Yeah.
But, for example, when we talked about having, the trails, on the trails plan, we have a connection from the Sandy River Park over to the Kate Schmidt right-of-way that we have behind Taco Bell. Basically going towards the health club. And so there was a connector over there, a connector from, so people could walk from the health club to the Sandy River Park. But they can't now because of the school the school's closed, blah, blah, blah. So when those apartments went in, that are still getting built, right behind the football fields, that was an opportunity for us to get a right-of-way at the very bottom of the hill, right next to the fence. A 6-foot right-of-way to have a trail easement. But they didn't ever pursue that because, they didn't
They didn't know
know
about
about
it,
it,
they didn't think about it.
And so we lost that opportunity to do that. I mean, we can always go after, a request for an easement or something like that, but what I'm saying is it's important for the planning folks to kind of have an understanding of what potential connections there are. That, again, we may not be able to require it, we may have to purchase it, or we may, or that's where it comes into that horse trading thing, where you can, if they want something, that's always, opportunity to, kind of negotiate.
And if the staff
something.
people are
That's-
really
And
well
just kind of
versed in this at the
introduction
time,
too,
you
so
can
that
get
we can
something at a
communicate
good
that,
time.
And make sure those opportunities aren't missed. I think
Right.
that's it
Right.
in a nutshell, right? We
Yeah.
wanna make sure that you get
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
opportunities. And that also, and then on the flip side, the people
Yeah.
in the process of development also get those opportunities.
So giving them kind of the preliminary stuff that we've identified as potential would be, for them to have that and look at that. When they get something in, they can see that and then kind of, and that's not anything in stone, but that's just some opportunities.
And a lot of that will be in the master plan too.
Oh, all,
Should be in the
what,
master plan.
Yeah,
I
so
think.
that.
But
that's
between
okay.
now and then, I mean, that's a year off. And
Right,
so my
so
point
that
is
maybe
saying
is
that
we're
to
in this
know,
bubble period.
yeah.
Well, and until we get the new master plan, the old master plan is
What
what
drives-
staff has as guidance.
Right, but to be aware of some of the potential that we've, identified as stuff, it's important for them to kind of be aware of that. So, because, hopefully some of that's gonna be in the master plan. And we can't require it, don't get me wrong.
Right, no, I
But it's
understand.
also good for them to be aware of it, and so from a timing, just if they have that, then that also just gives them an opportunity, even before they come to us, to know what the potential is.
Huh.
I don't have any questions about it, but I'll keep it.
Any other,
I was just, I should know, but is there any kind of park stuff up on the new big apartment development up on Sandy Heights?
The one at
in
Sandy
Boyd?
Heights.
aren't they
There's
supposed to
nothing.
do a playground?
Oh,
There's
that-
nothing in there.
that
I don't
can't speak
know.
to.
I haven't-
I haven't heard anything about it, but.
I haven't, we never did look
Our
at
guests could
anything,
answer.
right? We
You
never.
live in those apartments there
Yes, I
on,
live in Bornstedt.
don't,
We never,
do they have a little playground?
Yes, Hal Playground.
Yeah.
They
It's
have a
not
basketball
public,
sports
but yes.
park, it's not public, that's for the community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
That's
we
what
have- we
that's
have
kinda
sports.
what I.
We
Yeah,
have
that-
a tennis, basketball court,
Swimming
pool,
yeah.
hot tub,
Mhm.
I
those
guess
were
that's
built
why I
by
was
the
like,
complex.
that's why I was like, no,
not
because it's not a
private.
community.
Yeah, they're required though, when you do the
Yeah, when you
apartments,
have
they're
apartments.
required to have a playground and stuff.
Yeah, I think that's a state law.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we have an SDC on apartments at the family housing?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay, we'll
Yeah,
make a
that's-
note of that.
Mhm. Makes us some cash
Huh.
there.
Right. Is it
Because it's a lot of, so yeah, they have,
a tot lot?
yeah, some personal
Probably a
playgrounds.
tot lot,
yeah.
and like you said, a little swimming
They have a little, it's a little
Right.
pool, yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, it's not a pool,
Little workout room in there, it looks like.
right.
Very nice.
But that's not for the public
pool.
either.
No,
No.
it's for the.
It's
Yeah.
supposed to know.
But the tot lot could, people can wander in and use that, right?
I don't think so,
I think
yeah,
it's
usually
private
apartment
land,
complex,
not
all that's
city
closed,
stuff.
yeah.
No, it's
Not a
private.
city park, right?
Yeah.
Oh.
But I mean, it's probably gonna have a burn or anything.
And do we have planned unit development here in Sandy?
We do have some, but the Bornstedt was, Cascadia Bornstedt was the last planned unit development. There's planned unit developments like at the end of Bluff and, by Bluff and Kelso.
Mhm.
And I think one over by, is it the Vista Loop? There might be one out there.
And do they have private facilities?
Mm, I mean, for the Bornstedt one, we developed the Bornstedt Park Master Plan.
Right, okay.
And that was after our 97 master plan got
Vista
done.
Loop has a private facility, they have some basketball courts in the back, and.
Oh, that,
Yeah,
yeah.
they've got, I can't, off the top of my head, they may have had like a little park at one time. They do have some basketball courts, and that might be it. They have some grassy areas for the kids to play in.
now, did those apartments go in, newer apartments?
They're in the process right
Oh,
now.
okay.
And where is that?
Yeah.
Vista Loop,
Oh, Vista Loop, right,
Mhm.
okay. And what about, what happened to the thing at the far of DeBarco that we talked about quite a bit?
That's
happened
kind of
to that?
what's they're contemplating.
Bay?
That's the guy that
That's
wanted
a
to come.
deer.
Is he gonna come next time? Next in
Oh, Deer
July?
Park?
Oh,
Yeah.
not certain yet.
We'll see, dear,
Deer Point.
right, Deer Point, okay, so
Yeah.
they might.
That's where DeBarco is, right by,
It's
The
scheduled to
highway.
go out to the
DeBarco
highway.
ends,
Yeah.
right?
at, on
goes
26.
across Lang
But
and
that was a
Sand.
Yeah.
huge bunch of.
The Deer neighborhood,
Stuff
where
to
it
the
crosses Lang and
east.
Sand.
Right, it was a big bunch.
That's a
And then
big
it dead ends,
houses.
DeBarco currently dead ends.
So when are we
in
gonna see that?
development. And so
What-
there's,
Yeah.
it's all been cleared.
Mhm.
Yeah, they cleared it, but it's, you know, DeBarco's gonna go out to Highway 26, and so
Right.
because of that, there's all these, you know, right turn lane, left turn lanes, you know, all sorts of expensive ODOT stuff.
That's ODOT.
That,
That's big money.
that, you know, is going to affect the cost of development of that parcel. So I think that's all still kind of, they're just exploring all the
Yeah.
costs of the requirements that are gonna be made.
So we don't know what park stuff will happen there yet.
That's kind of what, you know, the other thing, though, what I saw from the plan, I don't know if you guys noticed that, all that stuff was, Lori, did you notice that all
sorry.
that was condos or apartments?
What's that?
The Deer Point, that thing that's being talked about was, LDR, low density residential, and now they're proposing to make it
High density.
apartments, high density.
No, I haven't heard anything
Yeah,
about it
and
yet.
so, and so this is kind of where it got a little bit confusing, like, they wanted to come to our meeting tonight and, you know, and us make a recommendation about where the park should be.
Tonight?
You know, well, I mean, this was the original thing, and so, you know, but when I kind of looked at it and I looked up the zoning and saw, you know, well, first you have to do like a comp plan change and a zone change, you know, and has that all been happened already? And
No
it
idea.
has not. I found out it hasn't, and so it's gonna take some time to get through that. So I kind of asked the question, and that's where it
That's how
came
this
up.
discussion
This
started.
came up, it's like.
When
why-
is the right time?
Yeah, why are we looking at this when they, you know, they have a whole lot more zone changing and stuff? And I guess I replied to all when I asked, you know, I'm kind of confused about the process of, you know, if all this other stuff has to happen, it seems like talking about the park location is a little bit premature, or something like that. And I said it to all, well, the developer was on there too, and he explained that they're going in for the zone change, and so they wanna be able to, when they say the zone change, they wanna show, okay, we want all this over here to be high density now, and we want the park over here. So it's kinda like they wanna kinda clarify where the park is, so that the proposal for the zone change is all,
Oh, for their paperwork, when they
you know, for
submit
the
it to the city?
Yeah, so that's why,
Gotcha.
which makes sense, you know,
Sure.
that
Yeah.
I can see that.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so, but it may not, you know, they may not get the zone change, you know, and I'm sure it's gonna be, probably, a process to go through, so.
So that's what kind of started this discussion.
Yeah.
You know, when is it, maybe too soon, but you're okay if they want to come in July?
Yeah, but what Kevin, so, I don't know if you guys, I thought you guys would have seen all these, but, you know, Kelly explained to them, well, you know, even if this park board made a recommendation, you know, that's not like the final thing, because you gotta go through all this other process, and once you get all your zone changes and all that, that's when we're gonna go through the parkland dedication
Right,
process.
but this, just like the other developer, this may be another, you know, where he's trying to just get people, he's trying to get everything lined up so that when he makes his
Mhm.
pitch, you know.
Yeah, but see, that's where he was trying to give us all the stuff by DeBarco and the highway, and I don't know what's involved, you know, what does that
I
mean
have
for
no
us?
idea
That,
either,
you know,
yeah.
is he doing that because then the city would have to foot the bill or what? So that's kind of where I just, you know,
Sure.
I don't,
Yeah,
you know, I
we'll
don't
let,
want.
we'll let staff worry about
Yeah,
that.
right. That's where it's kind of like, well, you know.
They're the experts.
Exactly, right, you know,
Mhm.
so.
So that's where it all
Yeah,
came up.
Gotcha.
That was
Yeah.
kind of.
That makes
like-
sense. It all
yeah,
makes sense.
just
Yeah.
trying
Yeah.
to sort out.
All good
Yeah.
stuff too.
Well, can
Yeah.
I ask, like, you're not in the planning department,
Growing
so
No.
how and where do you have the opportunity to be kept up to speed or brought up to speed about these things coming along?
Well, whenever
That
I,
we
you
will
know,
wanna
whenever
comment
you
on.
need more information from me, one, I can always get that, and two, you know, planning is always gonna, or now their development services are always gonna be willing to come and answer those questions.
Is that what it's called now? Did they
Yeah,
change their name?
yeah. It's been,
It's not the
it's been a
planning
while.
department?
Yeah, it's been
It's called development
They're just,
services?
yeah, they're just, everybody calls them planning,
Yeah.
because that's, you know, it's
Short
one of
name.
those things, yeah, yeah. It's like everything's a rollerblade, you know.
Okay, but anyway, so do you meet with them regularly, or what?
Yeah, I mean, I've obviously been talking to them a lot more lately. And, you know, we're kind of going back to, having this particular responsibility, under the community services umbrella. Yeah, and there's, you know, history as we were going through lots of transition, lots of staff changes and things
Mhm.
changed at that time. And so now we're just, you know, kind of backtracking a little bit and moving pieces maybe in the right direction. And, you know, I just want to do whatever you guys, you know, need me to do to help this board function as best as possible.
Well, I will say, you know, it's a little bit, makes me a little bit concerned when when there's so many different people involved in the park
Mhm.
stuff.
Mhm.
You know, everybody's got like a little bit, but, you know, Tanya's doing this, and James is doing the RFP, you know, and Dave
Right.
Snyder's doing this, you know. It's just, yeah, you know, like a mile wide and an inch deep, and it's just creates these communication problems.
Yeah.
With being as effective and as efficient as we can be, you know.
Well, and
yes.
that's something, again, you know, if we go out to the voters and they approve a parks district, then that might give us the ability to create, because I know Jordan, because we've talked, he would like to create a Parks and Rec department. And, you know, so in the absence of that,
Yeah.
these folks are trying, well, they're doing the best they can, you know, trying to spread the wealth and not bog down one person with a huge load. So, you know, we'll look to the future and hope and see what happens, what the voters want, and, you know, maybe next year we're having a completely different conversation,
Yeah.
you know.
Good
But in
point.
the meantime, do you have like a weekly thing where you're all together in one room, at least for like an hour or something, so that you kind of get
I mean, if
caught up on
when that
this
is-
big truck coming down the road this week or whatever?
well, when that's necessary, we certainly do.
Yeah.
But we do communicate a lot, you
Hmm.
know. But we're not meeting weekly necessarily, but I talk to Kelly and James
Yeah.
every other day right now, it seems like, you know, sometimes more often. So we are doing our best to communicate and, you know, to have this run as smoothly as
Right.
possible. And I'm trying to be very responsive and, you know,
Right.
get information back to you as quickly as possible.
Huh.
You've been doing great.
Yeah. Did they take something away from the other stuff, or do you just got more heaped on you?
I felt ready for more,
Oh, okay.
honestly, you know, I've had a level of responsibility for quite a long time, and I was ready to take this on. I felt I did have the time, so I
Don't make her
appreciate the
sorry she did it.
opportunity.
No, I just-
Totally kidding.
Before
Totally
it sounded
kidding.
like it was like, you can't just pile it on
You didn't hear
her,
me.
but,
I said,
yeah.
don't make her sorry that she
I
did
know,
it.
I
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll
I
call
love
up
our
every
parks,
day.
and I'm really excited about getting to.
It's an exciting time
Yeah.
too, you know,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
really exciting, so.
Are there any other topics? Any other news? Gossip?
When is our next meeting? Are we now
I think it's July
definitely?
10th, isn't it?
The
We're doing July?
second
Yeah.
Wednesday
July?
is our
Set
established.
time, we're trying to
Okay,
stick to
all
that.
right.
I know July can be a tough month, but so far everybody's here in July.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that is the Mountain Festival week.
It is, but it is Wednesday night, so technically speaking, we should be okay. No parade going on.
We shouldn't be drunk. No, you know, beer gardens or.
Yeah, right. It's
pie-
early, it's
pie
early in
booths
the
or
festival,
anything,
so
yeah.
I think maybe we can pull it off.
Yeah.
You know, if we have enough of the agenda, there's a couple things.
Well, this person, that might be on the agenda.
Possibly,
Yeah.
so I don't
Might.
know what
But we'll also be able to talk about the herbicide.
Well, that'll be a good
management plan.
discussion.
So that'll be, so yeah, let's just quickly run through so IPM, integrated pest management, people are gonna kind of look that up.
Mhm.
And so that's for the next agenda, and this possible Deer Point thing, and kind of coming back to us on the, you know, progress on the RFPs for the structures.
Right.
Maybe following up on that,
Be nice if
opportunity
we
for
could get that
that.
out before the next meeting, so
Yeah.
maybe we can get
Yeah.
that to a
But
point
look
where I
into
can
that
send
other
it
thing.
out.
Look into
and-
that other thing, because that would be even more quickly. You know, because it already, yeah. And talk to Mike, you know.
Yeah.
But, any other
Kelly's
agenda?
working on that list, I think, with Tyler,
Yeah.
and so I don't wanna muddy the
Yeah.
waters, but I will definitely pass on
Mhm.
the information we received tonight,
Yeah.
because I think it was good, a little more targeted, so we can hopefully help.
Might
Who,
help.
who is Tyler?
Budget guy, finance.
Is he new?
Finance director.
He's been here 10 years, what?
Three, four
years, I
Okay.
think, yeah.
What's his last name?
Very sharp.
Deems,
Steams?
Deems, D-E-E-M-S.
Oh, okay.
Any other agenda items for next month that you can think of?
And I'll
Yes,
send
get
out a
them to-
reminder.
yeah.
There's a couple other requests,
Great, great.
Ron Lazon might wanna come and talk about an idea he has.
Who?
Ron Lazon, he's a community member, has some, I think, an idea for the pond over by Bluff.
Oh.
I would love to hear ideas for that pond.
Yeah, he's the fly fishing guy.
Mhm.
Oh,
Oh.
you know there's kids out there fly fishing all the time?
Really?
There were
Are
kids
the
out.
fish, you gonna be fly fishing?
They are. I don't know that they're like successful or doing anything, but, cause I almost got popped in the head the other day with one of them.
Wow.
But they're out there at least playing around,
Yeah.
you know, so.
Great.
Come up
All
with
right.
anything else, let me know, and I'll add it, and start building it tomorrow while it's fresh in our minds.
Perfect.
And
Thank you. Can we adjourn?
we are.
Meeting adjourned.
Yeah, you might be dangerous with the gavel, I don't know.
We don't even have our name tags. Somebody else asking, but like, the Arts Commission has their own
Funny.
little thing to get on that thing. We don't.
You know, I don't know how many people are on that arts commission, but they're cruising right along,
So you're
man.
good, number 55?
Yeah,
I
they
think
are.
that's.
They're excited,
Yeah,
that's
55,
for
then we
sure.
have the one
Fantastic.
right at the very end of the sign. Oh,
We'll see you out there
oh,
somewhere.
yeah, you'll find me out there.
I wondered if that was your house, yeah.
That's
I kinda figured that, like,
it.
is that how many you
That's right, I'm
had?
done.
Did you sell
And
it?
you were,
Arborvitae? No.
oh, okay, and you were
Dead
with
in
the
the middle,
commercial
Yeah.
parks.
for like 10 feet wide.
Many years,
That would-
many years.